Hey, welcome to another episode of the Pastor to Pioneer podcast. I'm here today with Todd Henderson, a Methodist pastor in a variety of different Methodist denominations for the past almost 40 years. That you can do the math on how old you can guess Todd might be. But Todd is in the process of transitioning out. So soon he will be known as a former global Methodist pastor. I can't even get it straight. There's so many denominations involved.
Yes, yes.
Former pastor, as he's now in the process of newly transitioning into pioneering ministry, which I can't wait to hear more about on the podcast today.
Mm.
But first, Todd, welcome to the podcast, man.
Thank you, Britt. Honored to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Oh, I'm so glad. I mean, we got connected obviously when you visited Michigan. Was that
Hmm
6 months ago, maybe?
Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah.
Uh, it was fun to hang out with you and your wife as you were kind of
hmm
contemplating
Yeah.
what stepping out of the prevailing model of ministry could look like. And it's fun now
hmm
that you're actually doing it, man.
Yeah. Yeah. We're at the launching pad now. Yeah.
So by the time this episode comes out, it'll probably be right around the time that you are done in your role as pastor and
hmm
on to the new stuff. And so I'm excited for you
Amen.
to share that journey of kind of how you got to where you're at now and what your hope is for what's next. I'd love to start a little bit of just a brief intro about you. Who is Todd Henderson in like a 2 minute? I know you've been preaching for 40 years,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't need a preacher version, just a 2 minute version of kind of a little backstory of who is Todd Henderson before we get into how you got into becoming a pastor.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm from Alabama. We were laughing before we came on air with a banjo on my knee,
That's
central
right.
Alabama, and grew up out in the country on the farm, and just a charmed life. Everybody I was related to lived within uh, 20 minutes of each other. So every weekend was a family reunion. And so that was just the world I grew up in. It was a safe, great spot. And of course, I don't know if you want to hear my story in Christ, but
Sure.
I did wander away. I brought up in a little family church and left that in adolescence and went pretty deep into sin and bondage. And now I know God's hand was on me. It wasn't that I was that bad. I just got caught for everything I did. I mean, I got arrested over and
Wow.
over and brought before juvenile courts and kicked out of college, junior college, and I was just lost in sin and ashamed, doing things I'm now ashamed of. But thanks be to God, when I was 20, Jesus met me right where I was, and I did that Damascus Road 180. So every class reunion, we get voted most changed because, one, they can't believe my wife and I are alive, and two, they can't believe that we're pastor's wife, because my wife was in high school with me, but we didn't date then. We were both in our lostness and doing our own thing. But neat story is, when I came to Christ, I run into her, share with her my story. I'd been a believer just a few weeks, share with her my story. She came to that little home church, and that Sunday I was at the altar praying for her, and I felt it move, and I looked down, and she was giving her heart to Jesus.
Come on.
And then the church did the matchmaking and said, "You too." But I was her small group leader, and in my wisdom, I said, "We can't date. We got to keep our boundaries clear. I'm going to disciple you and be your small group leader. No dating." Well, the men of the church, one of them literally got me in a headlock. He was my uncle, and he just held me, squeezing the air out of me. "You better ask that girl out, and you better be good." So, yes, sir, I will. So,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, I will, I will. So we did, and we've been married now since 1988. So she knew she was marrying a preacher. Thanks be to God. I already knew I was called, and so when I asked her, I said, "Do you want to?" I was too poor to give her a ring. I just put my cross around her neck and said, "Do you want to bear the cross with me?" And she said yes, and we've been on this journey ever since.
Come on. And you guys have children?
Yeah, we have three children, all grown now, And we've had three grandchildren by our oldest girl, and then our middle daughter's expecting in March, and then our youngest is 25-year-old son. And
Exciting.
so it's great time of life. We get to be pops, and my wife is Omi, so that's what's on her
Pops and Omi.
car tag, pops Omi. Yeah,
That's so
that's
fun.
good stuff.
Well, a
Hmm.
little fun fact about I was just thinking about this when you said you're from Alabama. I think
Hmm.
we have on the podcast, we've had most guests come from Michigan. I mean, makes sense.
Right,
It's
right,
where
right.
I'm at. But I think Alabama might be number 2 on the list of the most people on the podcast from Alabama. So congratulations for
Yeah, man. We
keeping
used
it
to be
up.
a number one, at Alabama Roll Tide business, which I stay out of, but got to represent.
I'm getting better at pronouncing Alabama.
Yeah, you got to
From
drag
all
it
you
a little
guys
bit.
on the
Yeah, yeah.
podcast. Yeah, I get made fun
Hmm.
of otherwise. Sound like a
Yeah,
northerner.
yeah,
Alabama?
yeah.
No, no,
You
no.
talk funny.
Yeah, that's what they
Hmm.
say.
Hmm.
Oh man. Well, I would love to hear what was that like then getting into becoming a pastor? Obviously, you knew that from a young age. Like that was something that you had
Yeah.
on your heart. God felt like God was leading you
Hmm.
into. What was that transition like into traditional pastoral ministry?
Yeah. When I became a believer, I just was so crazy in love with Jesus that he could give me what I'd been missing all those years. It just became a focus and a passion to help others to meet him. And then people started saying, you ought to I said, I could do this full time. I could just live for Jesus and make him known. And that path became clear. I had a great pastor who discipled me, cast vision for that. So I went into a real dark season for about 6 months of seeking for that confirmation. I wanted a voice. I wanted the stars to line into a cross. I remember standing outside wanting a leaf to fall in my hand. I was looking for signs, God to just give that booming confirmation. And then finally, there was a song out that said, "Go where the peace is, because that's where the Prince of Peace will be." And the Lord just said, "Where's the peace?" And I said, "Living for you, knowing you, making you known." And he said, Go where the peace." So I called my pastor, and after 6 months of I really think the Lord withdrew some to see if I would follow him without the goosebumps and the feelings and the bright lights. It literally felt like he was stepping back to see if I would step forward in the dark night of the soul, so to speak. And thank God I did. I kept pressing in. And when I called my pastor, it was just like the peace of Christ flooded over me that
Wow.
this was what I was supposed to do. And I was getting a computer technology degree, a technical degree, and the Lord led me to finish it. I wanted to just quit it because this was pre 2000, and my great vision was to be a get rich programming computers when the 2000 changeover came. But then that didn't matter when I met Jesus. I said, I don't care about computers or any of that. But I finished it, and it did pay off to go to, because in the Methodist tribe that I was in, you had to have a bachelor's degree, then you had to have a 90 semester hour master's degree
Wow.
as part of your ordination process. So I went from just having being in the middle of a technical degree to having to get all that education done. And that was a whole nother miracle how God provided. And my pastor again discipled me through that. And but that's what it was like. I did every job in the church first in my home church. Children, youth, drove the van, lay leader, everything you can think of, preached, and that was a great training ground to
Awesome.
uh, to know, hey, I love doing this. This is what I want to do.
Well, rather than walking through 40 years of pastoral
Yeah,
ministry, I'd love to hear you're now uh, on the tail end of this and
yeah.
you're looking back on 40 years. What
Hmm.
what insights do you have as you've been reflecting on 40 years of traditional pastoral ministry? What bubbles to the surface?
Well, one is just amazing blessings along the way. God showing up and doing miracles and lifelong friends, people that we stay connected to through the years. But I also have to acknowledge the frustrations that are there. The Because when I was doing this, I didn't know there was any other way to do it. I just this is that when I thought this is what you do and you love Jesus, you preach and you pastor, and I did that. And looking back, it was always frustrating to grow a church and have great vitality and new people coming. But we were in an itinerant system where we were sent to our appointments, kind of like Paul went from city to city. They would send us. But when we were sent, somebody was sent behind us, and we would watch the work often dissipate and fall away. And so that was always heartbreaking. And also look back and know that using the APEST, which I didn't really know a lot about for most of those years. I was high on the A of that, and that didn't fit well in the settled church. I was wanting to pioneer always, but they were settled, and so it was like get unsettled and let's go take new land. And it was a constant pulling and pushing and prodding, and me driving them crazy and them driving me crazy. So because often what they had only known was the shepherd teacher, and I would come in not high on that list. My mercy gifts are very low. I look back and I feel sorry for the congregations, because my whole motto was like, we're taking this mountain for God, and we're either going through you, over you, around you, but we're going. And so I look back and it's a wonder they didn't kill me. But they love me, I love them, and so. But it toward the end, it was just more and more. I think COVID was sort of the final revelation that this is what you're giving yourself to, and you see the result, you see the fruit. That they were so dependent on being fed and given, and it was shocking to me how unequipped and unprepared the people were that I would
Wow.
have thought I had discipled.
So that came as a surprise to you. You thought, hey, I'm pouring into these
Yeah,
people,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
discipling them. They're good to go. They can stand on their own. They
yeah,
can self feed. And then when
yeah,
COVID hit, you were just
yeah.
like, you were shocked by the results.
Yeah, yeah, that they were just begging, send us a children's message, send us a sermon, send us songs, send us everything, and and it was like, no, gather, do the church, and it was this alien thinking for them that I realized how the system was producing what it was designed to produce, and then I knew this is a systemic issue, not a pastor effectiveness issue. It's just the system we're in, and it's producing what it was designed to produce.
How did you
And
come to that conclusion where you knew, like, wait a minute, this feels more systemic than just
yeah,
based on the churches I've been a part of?
yeah, just that eye opening, the Holy Spirit,
Okay.
just showing, giving me eyes to see this is what you're producing. You're making members, but not disciples that can make disciples. You're just making members who can make members, but not really what it was like waking up to my original calling as a new follower of Jesus. I wanted people to know Jesus, and I wanted them to find the joy of Jesus and to
Mm.
live that life. And that got lost in the system of making churches, healthy churches, and strong churches and giving churches and well attended churches. That became a very different thing than intentional relational discipleship. And so, yeah, that just more and more became a discontent, because I could see the finish line. I'm like you said, do the math. I'm 60 years old, and the finish line was in front of me where I could coast in. And but it was kind of like the Big Life motto that the founder of Big Life did. Do you want to live this little life, or do you want to live a big life? And I
Yeah.
said, I want to rediscover the big life Jesus originally invited me to. So that became that decision.
So how would you describe then the last 5 years when you started realizing this? You're realizing it's systemic.
Yeah,
Did you try to make changes within your church, or did you try to
yeah,
like, no,
yeah,
I can't, so I'm going to try to figure out how to get out of this? What were those past 5 years like?
yeah. The original, apostolic intent was, I can do this. I'll hybrid this thing. Like you've run into often. I just knew I could make hybrid work, and I just have dual tracks, and um, and that's what I set out to do as I started doing Zoom with groups in my church, and then shocked when we finished that there was no multiplication, there was no application, there was no fruit. And I would, well, I didn't do it right. I didn't do so. Next time I'm going to do it better, and I do another Zoom and and that just became apparent. And then honestly, being with you guys in Michigan was sort of the death knell to my illusion that I could do it. And even if I could do it, and started doing it, but that in about 5 years I was going to realize that it really wasn't done. That one was going to gobble the other up, and I would have wasted 5 years. I could have pressed in. That became the final. Yeah, I don't want to. I don't have 5 years to waste. I need to press in now. And that was the last 5 years have been frustrating to wonder why I couldn't make it happen in my church. But then being with you guys, y'all just helped me see as I began to understand it, the black hole of prevailing model of church. The beauty of it is a beautiful black hole, but it is a gravitational force that pulls everything into it, and you can't get out of it, and keep 1 foot in it and 1 foot out of it, that it's going to pull you in.
Yeah.
And that's been my frustration. A typical Sunday morning, I got people ready to be discipled, and the gig, choir's got to meet and got to rehearse. And so the people that are trying to do small group are being pulled into choir. And then when they can do a disciple group, they got to do choir rehearsal. And then we got to do media teams. And so all of my best leaders, I watched they were running the institution. They didn't have time, even though they loved me, they wanted to honor me, they were persons of peace to me. But I began to realize they can't. There's not enough bandwidth or capacity to run both of these systems. And I'd have to go get all the lost people, which God was bringing to us. But when I would, I mean, one of the graphic reminders to me was reaching a homeless couple and excited about their coming alive in Christ. And I thought, we're going to start a ministry through them to the homeless community, and they're going to go to them, and I'm going to equip them and resource them, and all they could do is go to their homeless friends and say, "Come to church with me." And I would say, "No, no, no, don't say that. Go be the church with them. I'll give you the money to buy them McDonald's, and you sit." Come to church with me. Come. That's all they knew to do that fast. I mean, as soon as they got saved and baptized, they were come to church, and I couldn't get them out of it. The black hole had grabbed them. I was like, come away. No, don't do it. And they're no longer in the church. They weren't made for that model. They
Yeah.
come out of broken homelessness. And so that was another graphic reminder. It's just not going to work. That the prevailing model is going to always prevail, and this is going to eat up the other work.
So when you were in Michigan hanging out with us, what was it then that finally like caused it to click? Just the realization of, okay, this thing is a black hole. Is that what you're saying the light bulb was? Were you coming into
Yeah,
that time thinking like, no, I could still do both?
yeah,
And then
yeah.
we crushed all your hopes and dreams of doing
Yeah, you
both?
did. I'd been told that, but I could do it. Maybe you couldn't, but I could, and and I was going to. But yeah, being with you guys and hearing it over and over, because you remember I had a guy with me doing it,
Yeah.
and you guys were really trying to tell him, don't stop. It's going to wear you out. Um, so that was helpful, though, that I was with him, because it just got reiterated over and over. You can do it. but not long term.
No.
It's going to lose because if it's successful, it's going to threaten. And I saw that clear as day that you were right, that my, our hierarchy, our bureaucracy, our system says only the ordained can serve communion and baptize and marry. And I've never believed that. And I've just been kind of rogue on that I'm just not going to tell them that I'm releasing this. But I mean, I'd have people call me pastors and say, I need to run the bread and juice by your office for you to bless it. And I said, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But an elder has to bless it. I said, you're as blessed as I am, brother. And over the phone, I would say, be blessed. And now go serve communion. But they would have allowed me to tell an untrained and uneducated and not going to seminary person, go baptize, go serve communion, go preach the gospel. That would have been unheard of. So it became clear I've got to
Wow.
step away.
In a lot of denominations, especially older established denominations, that stuff becomes pretty clear pretty quickly
Oh
about
yeah.
especially baptism and communion and all that. But even in
Mm-hmm.
like more low church, like even non-denominational settings, there usually are still some things
Mm-hmm.
that you don't
Yeah.
always realize what they are till you start doing it outside of
Yeah.
the box of what the way things have been,
Mm-hmm.
that there is competition, there is disagreement on how this can be done. And
Yeah.
so it's nice you knew from the get-go, there was no questions at what
Yeah.
those uh,
Yeah.
grenades were going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. That was going to be a deal breaker, and I'd have been checked and told no, and so that helped too, the decision. And I'm older. I said I just don't have time to try this 5 more years and then have wished I'd have just started 5 years ago. And so, yeah, that became a clear choice, more and more clear. But I love my congregation so much. This has been just a place of peace, and they love me, they bless me, they give me lots of salary, and way more than I deserve. And I even said, "Stop! That's too much for you." And they said, "Hush, we want to do this." So
Wow.
they made it hard to leave. I almost wish they were mean, stingy, terrible people. It would have been easier because my
How
wife and I
long?
said, "How are we going to tell them?" We've only been here 3 years.
3 years. Okay.
3 years ago, I left my former tribe, and through all that craziness that we went through as a denomination, and I was independent, and I didn't immediately join because this call was already tormenting me. I knew I don't really want to go pastor again in the same way I've been doing, but this church came in calling, and they just made an offer I couldn't refuse. I knew I could do it, and it was in a good place, closer to my family. So they became a sort of a time I could just really think about it some more. But I always knew this. I don't think I'm gonna get to stay here long. And so 3 years till I
Okay.
just couldn't stand it anymore. I just said, "Well, I'm not being authentic with you guys because I'm more excited about going to do that than this, and that's not fair to you all." And I didn't want to distribute them. That became a thought. They love me and honor me so much that I could approach them about decentralizing, but I thought that's not loving on my part because it's going to rip them to pieces. And you all helped me with that. You've said, you're not. They love you and you love them, but you're thinking more is going to go than will, and that was true. You all were right. That was not going to work.
Yeah, I think that's it's wise on your part because I think we're so optimistic, right? Like, oh, everyone's
Hmm.
gonna come. They
Yeah.
say they're on board. They love me. They're gonna follow me.
Hmm.
But in the end, if they're following you because of you versus conviction from the Spirit,
Yeah.
it just never lasts. It just doesn't.
So true. Yeah.
So what was that process like? I'd love to hear a little bit more of like what was that process like for you and um yeah, you and Roxanne of like how did you
Hmm.
decide we need to leave? How did you
Yeah.
decide when you were going to leave and how you were going to leave?
Yeah, it was gut wrenching, as you can imagine, to leave all that security and all that familiarity and comfort. So it would just became not a choice anymore. You know, if I'm going to be authentic and I'm going to follow Jesus, then there's really not a if. It's just now when and how and where we're going to go, how we're going to live. And so that was really hard. And then loving the church so much we were at, it was like they're going to kill us. I hate to hurt them, to tell them this, and it just became necessary that I'm just gonna have to hurt them, and I've got to just take the risk. And Roxanne, when I was being um, struggling with it, the deepest prayer was, you've got to also call Roxanne, because I can't go without her, and
That's right.
don't want to go without her. And so, please, if you're calling me, call her. And that was so beautiful how she said yes. She knew it. She saw it in me. She felt herself. It was conviction for her. And but being, primarily concerned about the nest and the security and her family, that was hard for her to launch again out into the unknown of how are we going to fund ourselves, where are we going to live. And so that was hard. That was some deep prayer and fasting seasons. And then when I told my elder over me, that was just a place of peace. Scared me to death, but also excited me to life. That that became official. We took that formal, official, not just thinking about it. But I told my presiding elder, I feel called to do this. And then telling church leaders, it just got more and more cemented and sure that no matter what happens, we're obedient. We're being obedient. This is what we're
Yeah.
supposed to do, not knowing the future, not knowing if what's going to work or how it's going to work. That just became clear. And then we've watched God work since then over these last weeks of going from total unknown to more and more known, things falling into place that are blessings.
How did the church respond when you shared it with them?
I was so pleased. We thought they're going to be mad at us and run us out of town, but I knew better. They said we knew it was coming.
Wow.
We knew that we weren't going to keep you. We knew your heart, and they actually apologized. They said, we're sorry we couldn't do what you wanted to do. And I said, oh, don't say that. You're doing what you're you're called to do, and the church is designed for you to do. You're very faithful. But that touched my heart that they apologized for not doing, because they thought, well, if we'd have done what Todd asked, he could stay. And I just had to tell them, no, it never could work. I'm going to drive you crazy. And
It's wise.
and yeah, and so they've just blessed us. I think they'll be our sponsoring church. I think, we've
Cool.
talked about to their foundation that they may uh, commit, uh, be the biggest part of our givers, that
Wow.
they would come alongside. So that's just amazing.
Incredible.
And so, yeah, that's
How
one of
did
those
you
answered prayers.
that is no kidding. How did you describe to them what it is that you're stepping into?
Yeah, that's been a mystery. It's last Sunday. I said, "Hey, when you guys figure out what I'm doing, tell me." And I need to know. But they've kind of gotten it. Just talking about the simple, reproducible, organic, intentional, smaller gatherings, because simple things multiply. Um, Priesthood of all believers, unleashing the priest, so to speak. That's the kind of principles that they've kept hearing from me. So it's really just saying, I'm going to do that. And it's not fair for me to ask you to do it, because the system's not designed for that. And they just get it because they've heard
Wow.
it so much. Most of my leaders have gone through Zoom A.
Okay.
So I basically said, I'm going to do that,
Okay.
and only that. And they got that. Oh, okay. You're going to do the simple gatherings, and they knew about it, but now they're having to really think about what is that and how does that work in real life. So yeah,
So because you'd had done Zoom A training with a lot of your leaders, and I assume then when you're giving a sermon on Sunday morning, you're talking this language, you're
yeah, yeah.
speaking this stuff. So it didn't come as
Mhm.
a total surprise, is what you're
No,
saying. And they had
no,
some language, though they fully didn't understand it, of course, I'm sure, but
no.
they it it made a little bit of sense based on what you'd been talking about for
Mm-hmm.
years.
They
That's
did, and they knew it, and they'd watched me and knew my heart, and they said, "We knew you were going to do it. We just didn't know. We hate your having to leave us, but we knew it was coming. That was your heart." And so they've been very supportive, and I've appreciated that.
so. As they send you out, you guys decided to raise funds. What made you decide to kind of do find some financial supporters versus go to the
Yeah,
marketplace?
that was another big decision because I didn't want to do the fundraising. I wanted to get out of that and just be a tent maker, so to speak. But the availability side of that to go wherever the Lord calls pushed me back to that if you're making tents, you got to be where you're making the tents, and you can't go to the open door internationally or other parts of the nation. And that's my heart's desire, is to be fully available. So that became, yeah, I've got to trust God that through our 40 years, all that relational network God's going to give persons a peace to partner with us to raise our support.
Wow. What have you learned so far in the support raising world? And any wisdom, any insights, things you've learned along the way so far?
And it's scary. It's scary. And you constantly I have to revision myself that I'm not raising money to support my family. I'm I'm raising partners to participate with me in kingdom of God eternal impact. And that's a world of difference. One is kind of demoralizing, like going with my hat in my hand. I need you to help me buy bread for my wife and our grandkids. And the other is I need you to giving you the opportunity uh, to partner with me. And that's a constant adjustment. The world of flesh and the devil tried to take me to the demoralizing side of it, and the Holy Spirit and other disciple makers keep reminding me of the spirit led side of it, and that is helpful. That makes all the difference to me. Motivation, morale, everything.
That's great. That's great wisdom. You had mentioned something about kind of going internationally. If I remember right,
Hmm.
you've been involved in some international work already. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. When this was gnawing at me 3 years ago, I started asking God, where might you call me to serve you and share you? And I went a fellow um, guy that does corporate speaking evangelism named John Riley, Auburn fame. He was a football player for Auburn back in the 60s, 70s. John Rat Riley, but he took me with him and started bringing me in on his relational network. And I asked God, show me if this is person of peace, if this is a place. And it has been. Every time they're just open doors, great openness of the people. So that is one of the focuses, as we say in our vision casting, is Belize, Bama, and beyond.
I love it.
So kind of Belize is our first international focus. Alabama is our local focus, and then beyond wherever God opens a door. So yeah, I'm going to Belize in February
Good time to go.
with another Big Life um, leader, Greg Palowski,
Oh, awesome.
was going, and Greg said, "Hey, I understand you've been." And what I love about working with disciple makers is it's all about networking. You know, when I first started in this, one connected me to another, who handed me off to another, and there's just all this just distributing that was new to me because as a pastor, you don't distribute, you collect. So to see disciple makers distributing has been fun, and I just keep seeing that happen. That doesn't matter who gets credit, who gets the fame or the glory. Just get it done and partner up and do it with whoever is willing. So yeah, we're going in February to do some work there, and that'll be fun. Yeah, and it's a good time to leave in the winter to go to the tropics
That's right.
to do ministry.
How much did you being involved in Belize in some kind of outside Bama work, how
Yeah,
much did that influence and paint a picture of what possibly could the future look like for you?
yeah, that was big because in the Bible Belt, what I'm finding is disciple makers, the movement is challenged. You're on not good soil for movement work um, because of the inertia and the nature of the work we're in. And so it's obedience and faithfulness in Alabama is what I'm finding is just doing what Jesus said do faithfully, without fruit, without big numbers and huge movement. Belize is the opposite. There it's openness and hunger, and they're not so churched. You gotta unchurch them. They get it, and so I think that's the reward for the obedience and in Bama is getting to go do it in Belize and then getting to go with others. I know the Lord. I'm just praying that He lets me see India and uh, the Middle East and Africa where movement is going. I won't probably won't see that in the Bible Belt, but I will get to. I think the Lord will let me do it as for the obedience and Bama. And
Love
so
it.
Belize was that. It was encouraging that there are places in the world where they're starving for the gospel and they are so responsive to it and they get it that they can reach their neighbors. I mean, we had one lady just get it from lostness to coming to Jesus and knowing she could gather people under her, literally under the mango tree in her yard and be the church. And that is just like, yeah, there's no big mega church nearby to suck her into it or tempt her, or they're just not there. And the pastors there are looking to me and saying, we know our system's ending. It's COVID showed everybody this system is not got long-term life. And in Belize, they're coming and saying, "We know this is next. It scares us. We don't like it, but we know this is what we're called to do next." And so they've already come to training, already started RAS. I call it a virus. You get infected with this virus that you cannot get inoculated from
Yeah.
unless you just get deep enough in the prevailing model, you get your immunization. But I don't want them to get immunized. I want
Yeah.
them to let that
Amen.
virus work itself through their system.
Amen.
And that's what
You
happened to me.
well, you talked about all these pastors in Belize coming to the realization from
Hmm.
COVID that this system is dying, things are changing, things need to change in what it means to be the church, and
Hmm.
how we do that. Did you find that pastors you were connected with in the United States were also coming to those same realizations, or was it totally different on how pastors were responding after COVID?
Yeah, it was different because some got it that this, in the smaller churches that were already struggling, they were just beyond appealing and they've closed in many cases. But sadly, many have rebounded enough for the illusion to come back that we're alive and well and we're thriving. And they are not receptive to the model not being up the ongoing future. So it's very much less acknowledged in the Bible Belt in America, for sure. I don't even talk about it a lot. I just come alongside them. I just love them, honor them, but know that their system is working for them. It's producing what it was designed to, and that's enough for them.
Until we hit another global
Yeah,
crisis and
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Hmm.
So,
Yep,
do you
yep,
think
yep.
in Belize it's just because they don't have the money to keep it going as much?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and they're not as churched as we are here. You
Okay.
know, there's not one on every corner, and it's not as indoctrinated and ingrained in them, and so there is more of an openness to other ways. And what I love about disciple making movement is it's just empowering the them, you know, not me. So it's most people in America thought I'm moving to Belize and I'm going to be the mega pastor over there, and they're shocked when I say no. I'm visiting. I'm investing, pouring in. I leave. They're the I'm the hero maker. You know, in disciple making, it's about Jesus and them and his gifts in them, and that's just like, you know, they scratch their heads over how that could be. But yeah, that's here in America. They think, you know, I'll move there, I'll preach on Sundays, I'll gather big crowds, and they're having to hear, no, that's not what disciple making movements do.
Incredible. It's
Yeah,
incredible. So for you and Roxanne, um, are you gonna move? Are you gonna stay where you're at?
yeah, yeah.
Where are you headed?
Methodist preachers, and many of our churches live in parsonages, as we call them. And so we're in a beautiful parsonage. And so we are leaving it right before Christmas. So Merry Christmas to my wife,
Wow.
who I told it's time. We got to do it now. And she said, Christmas? I said,
Oh,
we got to do it, baby. And so we move out literally the 23rd is our last day in the house. And person in the community we're living in offered a cabin, a very rustic, 400 square foot cabin, plywood floors, no stove, no oven, no refrigerator. It was very basic. And my wife's credit, she said yes. First, it was RV. We're going to buy an RV and move into it December the 20, right at Christmas, and the shopping for it and the cost of the truck and all of that, we started feeling like that's not now. And the cabin came in, and my wife said yes. And because of her yes, I do believe in another community we had served nearby, a beautiful cottage overlooking a lake and a gated private farm. They said, we want you to use this and we want you to come to it. And I mean, it's fully furnished, overlooking a lake, beautiful setting. So we were like, thank you, Jesus. That was humbling
so
to
you're
have
not
that offer done.
so you're not end up gonna go to the rustic cabin. This other one came in, so you're gonna go to the nice place.
Yes,
Incredible.
fully furnished, no, move nothing in except your clothes on your back. And
Incredible.
yeah, it was like, thank you, God. And so when I'm in Belize and she can't go, she'll be safe and comfortable. And that's another place of peace for us, a community called Sylacauga in good old Alabama name. But it's nearby to Talladega, so we'll be doing work in both places. That's part of the Bama and then Belize and beyond. So, yep.
So when you are in a parsonage, does that come fully furnished?
It it does. My wife and many families have chose to move with their furniture. They want
Okay.
their bed, their couch, their recliner. But if you don't, the church provides all that. And so we moved with a lot of that. And so part of our transition has been let's let's not only gather simply, let's live simply. Let's
Wow.
give away everything we can. And my
Wow.
wife has embraced that. And we've given a lot of furniture away to families. We telling the children, hey, first dibs for you. When they say no, we say, okay, it's gone. And so we moved in with about $7,000 moving cost with two transfer trucks. And we're moving out with one trailer behind a truck
Wow.
um, to take it to family storage. So
Wow.
yeah, we're getting lean, and so the house though that we've worked on it, and it's beautiful. I mean, we'll grieve and people are giving me helpful detox articles on the detox I'm about to go through.
Yeah,
And but being in a cottage on the lake really helps with detox,
it
looking
sure
out over
does. It
the
sure does.
Ah,
That's why drug rehab places, right? They're all over in like beautiful parts of Florida and the Caribbean. Yeah,
it
same
helps.
idea.
It helps.
Well, I think you're right and so wise in how you guys have gone about this. And there is the reality of when you transition out, there's a detox, and that detox process
Mm,
lasts a while. And
hmm.
it's hard, especially
Yeah,
someone that's been in traditional pastoral ministry for 40 years. It's tough because there's
yeah,
things deeply ingrained in you that you don't even know. And
yeah,
some you do, but some you don't know
yeah,
until you're out of it.
yeah.
And so I
I'm
just think
about to find them.
you're right.
Yeah.
I just think you're wise in recognizing that and being attentive to
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
And I think with you, I love that you're so willing to share your story right where you're at. We don't get many people that are
Hmm.
like on the cusp
Yeah.
of moving from pastor to pioneering. It's
Hmm.
they're still a pastor, or they're looking back at you're like right
Hmm.
at that
Yeah.
tipping point. And I just think there's so
Hmm.
much. I really admire and appreciate your humility, your courage, your love for people. Yeah, it's just like so much. I think it's different when you're doing this transition in your 60s than in your
Hmm. Yeah.
20s, 30s, or 40s. And I just think
Hmm.
you you've done it well. And
Thank you,
I just
bro.
want to say, way to go. I think you've done the
Thank
transition
you.
incredibly well.
Let me say a word of appreciation for any other pastors that might be watching. The curriculum you all do by the same title, Pastor Pioneer, was super helpful.
Great.
Me being coached and discipled through that with Wes Sharp
Oh
walked
yeah.
me through that. Another brother here in Alabama, and he walked me through that. And that was just confirming, and it just helps this is real. It's not just a discontent. It's biblical. It's real, and there's real options. I really never knew there was a pioneering option outside of that model. This one model is all I knew, and then you guys and the name and a lot of our trails. Curtis Sargent
Yep,
was the
that's right.
first one that infected me with this virus over about 12 years ago, and it never has left me.
Another
And
guy in Alabama.
yeah, that's it, brother. He got us.
Well, you're right. I mean, um, yeah, Curtis has been such a gift to so many of us and giving us
Hmm.
language and tools and
Hmm.
encouragement and I'm glad that that paradigm shift training that we do it's one of our starting
Yeah.
points, obviously, with a lot of pastors, just to give language, to
Hmm.
give biblical case for all this, to give examples of how it could
Hmm.
be different. And I'm just glad it was really encouraging for you. And you
Yeah.
got Wes is an incredible guy, an incredible
Yeah.
coach.
He was. He's a
Eh,
great guy.
You can't help but
Matt
love
Snyder.
that guy.
Matt Snyder started. Curtis gave me to Matt Snyder. Matt Snyder gave me to Wes, and the beat goes on.
I love
Love
it.
it.
Uh, real quick before we wrap up here, I have a very important question. You said that you're in Talladega right now.
Yeah.
What in the world is it like living in Talladega with race season for
Yeah.
NASCAR in Talladega?
Hey man, you might be a redneck if your school lets out 2 days, the whole weekend's off around the Talladega race. My, our local schools dismissed Friday and Monday because of the race coming to town, and we've got it's everywhere, man. It's amazing.
And do people, is it a lot of local people or is it a lot of people from out of town that come in?
More out of town. The locals kind of duck low and get back and stay out of it. But they come from all over. When I say where I'm at, pastoring, I'd say NASCAR, Talladega. Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. So yeah, but it's everybody from all over, and it's been fun to be around that. I went when I was lost, and now to go and be around it as a follower of Jesus, and they cleaned it up a lot back from
Okay.
in my lostness. They've made it much more family friendly, but it's special, yeah. And I don't really follow it. I really am not a NASCAR fan. I couldn't tell you many drivers. The ones I used to follow are all retired now. So, but yeah, I'm right here in the middle of it. Yeah.
It's so
Talladega Nights, baby.
that's right.
That movie is me and baby Jesus.
That's so fun. Well, last question I have for you is you and Roxanne are on the cusp of this transition.
Uh,
Looking ahead, how are you feeling?
Man, I'm more alive and excited than I have in a long time, but also more scared and nervous and anxious than I have been in a long time. And it's all right there in the same journey. You know, like I tell Roxanne, we're like our first Christmas, baby. We're no place to lay our head. We don't know what's next, and God will provide, and Christ will be born afresh. So we're kind of in that. You know, I feel like Mary probably give Joseph pretty rough time as they were going to Bethlehem, and I got some of that coming,
Yeah.
and I've earned it with Roxanne. But we're excited. We really see God's hand,
Mm.
um, and we just, we are in that time of, hey, it's the provision we've known is about to end, and that reality it makes it get more and more real. You know, it's a death of something and an ending that's a grief, but also a new beginning, resurrection. So we're in both all that world right now together.
Well, I'm excited for you and for
Thank you, brother.
Roxanne. And, of all the many pastors that we've had the privilege of walking within this transition from pastor to pioneer, it's scary, it's unknown,
Mm,
and it's hard a lot of days. But
yeah,
the thing I'm reminded of over and over, and you mentioned this earlier, it's like God is with you. He's
yeah.
with you in it, and He's going to show up in some really amazing and profound ways.
Hmm.
And I'm excited for how He's going to reveal Himself and what He's going to do in you guys, how He's going to transform you, and what He's going to do
Mm,
through you guys. So
amen.
I look forward to catching up in a year from now and be like, okay,
That sounds good.
year one, what did
We
God
made it.
do? You
You
made
see
it.
this scar? You see that scar?
Totally.
Yeah, sounds good,
Totally.
buddy.
Well, thanks for being on the podcast, Todd. It's been a real gift.